Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Aquarian Mind podcast. Today's podcast, episode number 121. I'm your host, Jamel Crothers. Mondays with Mello. You guys know what time it is. Today, I'm talking about planning and writing ahead of time. And I'm going to kind of talk about, my process and all that other stuff. And some of this is going to sound crazy to you. So, um, I would just say enjoy listening to this because it's going to be a good one. Anyway. Um, when I sit down to, plan out what I want to do and, how I go about writing, my content, I write down the most important things that I need to do. And the biggest thing is planning and writing a lot of my content ahead of time. The reason why I do this is to make sure that there's content ready for all of you guys to read. And with so many projects that I'm working on, whether it's blogs, writing books, YouTube page, clothing line, podcast, and any other thing that may come up along the way, I have to make sure that pretty much everything is on point. And for the past few years, I have been writing my books ahead of time. And in a nutshell, I try to stay a year ahead of time with my books. So, by the time you come across my books and read them, if you choose to, chances are I wrote the book, I would say 6 to 12 months earlier. I know, imagine that, right? People always question why I plan and write things ahead of time. Now, let's just say I've studied the best businessmen and CEOs in today's world, and they're always ahead of the game. They're always on top of what they plan on doing ahead of time. And I'm going to break this down to you from a business perspective. Now, let's look at clothing brands, whether they're big or small. You look at CEOs, and they're looking ahead of time and being innovative. And one CEO that I study a lot is Randall Pitch. And he's a CEO of Live Fit and Top Threads. And how he continues to be innovative in what he does. And he's always on top of things, and he handles and manages a lot at one time. And with his company, it's, a lot of, like more of like trendy short sleeves, tank tops, hoodies, things like that. He's moved on to shorts and a lot of different things. His clothing line is really amazing, and to look at like his beginning journey all the way to where he is now, it's just amazing. Like his continued growth as a CEO and continuing to allow his designers to be creative and innovative, and he takes a lot of things into account. The fit of things, the stitching, the labeling, the shipping, everything. He's looking at the whole landscape of everything. Now, he has a great team of people who really help him to keep his whole situation going. And for him to start with like 3 people, then he went to 5 people. Now I think he's at about like 12 people that are like legit full time. And then he has a lot of models and other people that come in and do his photo shoots and things like that. And he's immersed in all of that. So that's kind of how I think about my process. It's understanding and knowing that I am in charge of everything. I am a self-published author, so I do everything. So if you are listening to this podcast, let's say for the first time, I will repeat myself and say, I do everything in regards to writing my books and my podcasts and my blogs. Now, in regards to my books, I brainstorm it, chapters, characters, laying out everything, outlines, backstory. Then I'm writing the book. Then after I write the book, then I'm editing the whole book. When I finish editing the book and proofreading, then I format my book. Then after I format my book and put it in an EPUB format for, the Barnes and Nobles, Kobo, Scribes, all that stuff, for that. Then there's putting it into PDF format for paperbacks in order for it to, be printed and published in in a way to where when you get the book, it looks professionally done. It looks like a book publishing company did it, but it was me. And it's also creating the book covers and the book title and the synopsis that you read on the back and the biography and my professional picture of my professional picture that I have on the back of the book, and making sure that the book looks right and making sure the colors look right and ordering copies of it before I fully publish it. So everything, and I mean literally everything, is done by me. It's, deciding the price of the ebook. That's easy. The harder part is deciding the price of the paperback. And I do that based on how many pages the paperback actually is. So whether it's 60, 50 in the 50 page realm, 60, 70, 80s, 90s, whatever. There is no book of mine that is over $10.99. I am about keeping books affordable. I am not trying to make a 100-page book $20. That makes no sense to me. For me, I'm looking at that author and going, you really don't have a lot of content, so you probably have maybe 1 or 2 books. For me, I have over 30 books as we speak. So it's a whole different realm. And for me, I don't have to go crazy saying, well, I have a 100-page book. Do I really need to make it $20? No, let's just make it a normal $9.99 and make it affordable for people, because you never know if people are going to buy another book of yours after that. See what I'm saying? So I'm thinking of the bigger picture of it. It's not a cash grab for me. It's more of creating the stories, developing the conversations, and going out into the world and trying to make changes to what's going on around us. I write about social issues, and a lot of people, don't write the way I write. So that's another thing. But anyway, now, so I've learned a lot from Randall Pitch, right? So based on what I've learned from him, there comes Gary Vaynerchuk, Eric Thomas, and for them, they are staying ahead of their content and what they plan on releasing, posting, and launching. So to be, the best, version of myself, it's for me studying the best. And that's why I'm always thinking of my books and how I want to write them and how I want to convey a good message and how I want to get people to think, because that's the main goal. It's to get you to think of, okay, that's different, or wow, like he really put that in good context. I tend to write my outlines for my books months before I even start to write them. And most of the time, that's a brainstorming session that I do months ahead of time, because I know that I'm eventually, after I finish writing the current books that I'm working on, I'm going to get to that book. And when I am ready, everything is in place and it's ready to go for the most part. So I have a chapter layout. And a lot of times when I have a chapter layout, I don't really have to go through writing an outline. I can just let it flow. And then there are times where it's, all right, I need to outline this chapter and what I want to talk about and what I want to convey, and then I'll go from there. And then there are times where I am writing a book and I finish it and I'm excited and I'm like, yes, I got that book done. And then when I go back to editing and, proofreading and stuff like that, I may add some stuff, that I didn't include in that moment, because my brain is in a mode of, okay, I've got to get this out in the moment. And sometimes I may repeat myself. So I'm like, all right, those sentences are too similar. All right, let's get rid of that. So that doesn't happen too often, but here and there I may word things differently, or I may change the way I say certain things to bring the character out more. So these are all the things that I do. And this is why I do a lot of things ahead of time. And for me, I've done it for so long that, it becomes natural to me. It becomes second nature. But what I will say is, if you choose to go this route, in regards to self-publishing and all that stuff, just be prepared to be disciplined, because that's honestly what it takes to be able to write things ahead of time. None of it is easy. And, if you plan on, having longevity and you want to be an author that, becomes well known for their content, not necessarily a bestseller, not necessarily famous, but more of a well known author that people know about, um, just know that it's all a process and you've got to embrace it and you've got to be ready to really work. So that's how I go about staying ahead of the game and writing books ahead of time. And um, for me, it's enjoying the journey and knowing that even, after I finish writing a lot of books ahead of time, there's still other things that I have to do. And a lot of it is, recording these podcasts ahead of time also for you guys and working on blogs for months down the road. And, for me, it's staying ahead of the game. That's all it is for me. So, with that said, that's my podcast for today. Thank you guys for listening as always. Be good, everyone, and go accomplish your goals.